vindicate his elect. He will vindicate them. Our God delights in answering prayer, and especially the prayers of his chosen ones, his elect. Those who are born again, genuine followers of Jesus Christ. Those who have turned from sin and religious righteousness through faith in Christ by his grace to Jesus. That's the elect, the ones who are of God. Whatever situation in life you are in today, know this: my God, hopefully you can say my God with me, will hear the prayers of his elect and will vindicate them. He will make it right. He is a just God. We are a time-conscious people, aren't we? Very time-conscious. In fact, I have a big clock in the back because we're so time-conscious. I don't like being time-conscious sometimes, except for when it's dinner time. But our God is outside of time. He's not time-conscious. He needs not be. He created time. He made it. We're so time-conscious, but my God is not time-conscious. And that's sometimes a struggle for me to understand when I don't see the vindication when I think it should be. I don't see the justice when I think it should be. But my God is beyond that. He's above that. One day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. A blink of the eye is nothing to the Lord, and 1,000 years is nothing to the Lord. He doesn't forget. We forget. Believers in Jesus Christ, the born again, the elect of God, will be vindicated. So I told you the meaning of this parable and the application before we even looked at the parable. Well, that's because what they did in the parable. He gave us the meaning before we even saw the parable. We are informed why Christ gave the parable before he gives it. The parable is to encourage our hearts before God and with one another in family fellowship, that if you are a true disciple of Christ, pray without ceasing. Don't lose heart. Don't become weary in praying, because God makes right what is wrong. He makes right what is wrong. God is the righteous judge. In this story that we looked at, you have, first of all, the judge and the widow, these two individuals. The judge in this parable is not an allegory or a picture of God. In fact, it's somewhat blasphemous to say that, right? If you even look at it. This judge is unrighteous. He is unjust. He is wicked. He fears not God nor man. This judge is one who is only concerned about himself. That's the phrase, fears not God or fears man. He doesn't care about what God thinks. He doesn't care about what others think. He cares about himself. Sadly, I think in most governments in this world, there are many judges like this. This is something that was true in the time of Jesus' day, so this was a story they could relate to, and it's something that's true throughout history. The power of a judge can be corrupting. So, this description of him, he's not one who fears God nor regards man. He's a scoundrel. He doesn't care if something's right or wrong. The judge doesn't care if it's ethical or not, or reprehensible or not. He doesn't fear God. He doesn't care about others' needs or plights. The whole purpose in taking a case before a judge is that in pleading your case, he will sympathize with you. And if he does not sympathize with you, at least he'll see the reason of your argument, right? That's why you go to court. That's why you take a law to a judge. But here's a judge that the first thing he thought was, well, how is this going to benefit me? Doesn't fear God or regard man. If I plead in this way, how's it going to help me out? Boy, that's a horrible judge to take a case to, right? It's horrible. I don't see how that can be an allegory or representative of God in any way. He's a judge who sits on the bench and rules based upon what gives him most benefit. He is immoral, he is unethical, he is uncaring, he's hard-hearted, only fears for himself. Truly he's an unrighteous judge, unjust judge, as the parables become known as. I suppose you can see why it'd be ridiculous to say this allegorizes Christ, the judge of all the earth. He contrasts God. God is a just judge. He is an unjust judge. The widow in Israel, widows in Israel were an oppressed class. They were an oppressed class. This is why women married in their teens, and so widows were numerous, but not necessarily old. Women outlived men. Men had a harder life, so many times the women a harder life than they do today. So many times women would outlive their husbands quite a bit longer, and you would have very young widows. Widows had little to their name. They did not inherit property normally from their deceased husband. There are some exceptions, but that wasn't normal. Provision was made for them, though, usually if the husband had money. If he was poor and they lived a subsistence living, no provision was there. If she remained in her husband's family, she took on a lower class, almost that of a servant with the other women in the family, if she remained as a sister in the family. So that was a difficult option for her. If she went back to her family had to pay back the dowry. They had to pay back the price, the monies and the things that were given for her wedding. So that would make her in poverty if she went back to her family. So you can see it was a very difficult place for them. And people that are lowest in society usually are victimized the most, are they not? Because of that, widows were victimized. They were used. They were taken advantage of. They were unrighteously victimized by the populace. This is why James comments in his epistle that true religion is to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction. This is why Paul says that widows who are over the age of 60, who have lived godly lives, who have raised children for the glory of God, who have served the church and served others, should be taken in and be paid by the church to live. Now, he did put those specific restrictions because there were many widows who were just trying at those days, who were just saying, well, here's a way that I can make an extra money and do nothing. So he tried to say a widow indeed, truly a widow in need here. They were to be taken care of because they were not in society. Does the society let them go? They were victimized. And so it would resonate with the hearts of these people to hear about this morally reprehensible judge who would already, just without the widow, would look like a scoundrel, and contrast that with this victimized lowest of society coming to him with this plight. You have this picture in this parable. We don't know in what way, but this widow is obviously wronged, right? She has been victimized and needed justice. She says, avenge my adversaries. Get me against my adversaries. Help me. I need you. You are the only one I can trust, I can turn to in this. But, bad judge. She needs him and he's not there. Instead, he doesn't care. It doesn't benefit him at all to avenge her. It doesn't benefit him at all to give a righteous judgment. But she keeps coming to him and keeps asking for justice. And because he is an unjust judge, that works. Because he's an unjust judge, that works. You see, he says in verse 5, yet because this widow troubleth me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me. I found it interesting as I was studying the original language here. That phrase, she weary me, literally has the idea as she's beating me black and blue. Now, he wasn't concerned about this widow coming up and beating him in the face physically. But he felt so beat up by this woman who just kept coming to him. Nag, 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 nag. That's the idea there he's thinking. So he says, fine, it now becomes my benefit to avenge her. Now it's something that makes it better for me. Because then she'll leave me alone. And so he avenges her. Now that's the end of the parable. That's all the story that the Lord gives. He then does explain what he's trying to say. Here is the spiritual message concerning the corrupt judge. Hear what the unjudged just saith. God is not like this corrupt judge. God will vindicate his elect. This corrupt judge had to be beat figuratively before he would avenge. God is not like this corrupt judge. He will vindicate his elect. He will make right what is wrong. Those who are crying out to God day and night, in that phrase there, though he bear long with them, that is a difficult phrase to translate. It is difficult to understand. Literally, although he is patient, he bears long with them. It's not saying there, though, it's a concessive clause in the sense that even though it doesn't seem like it, it's like this. It's difficult to understand, but it's like this. God patiently endures the elect. Not the ones judging. He's not talking about bearing long with them, being the unjust, because the pronoun has to refer to the pronoun has to refer to his closest antecedent. Them is the elect. And he says, he will be patient toward his praying elect. He doesn't get